I also understand the emotions around this assassination attempt, but I am not going to allow some, and I say some, the chairman of this committee is a serious legislator who wants answers. Some are not. And some are trying to rewrite what has happened in our country over the last 8 years, erase what happened in this building on January 6th. Current vice presidential nominee is the one who said that Donald Trump might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroin he's responsible for, nauseous and reprehensible.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and everyone seems to be ignoring the fact that JD Vance once called Donald Trump America's Hitler. Yet here he is now, Donald Trump's chosen vice president, proving once again that in politics, principles are often the first casualty.
I joined the chairman in seeking unity as the antidote to political violence. Unity as the antidote to political violence. But we're not going to erase and rewrite and allow some to reincarnate themselves as victims of what happened. We can't let this ever happen again. We must arm law enforcement and have better security perimeters. But in this country, violence has never been the answer.
Representative Eric Swalwell at a House Homeland Security Committee hearing addressed attempts by Republicans to shift the narrative in the media and everywhere else regarding the twice impeached convicted felon Donald Trump and the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol riot. Swalwell accused Republicans of trying to use the attempted assassination of Trump to distract from and erase the significance of the January 6 riot, and he's absolutely right.
One member of this body in Congress said the Republican district attorney in Butler County should immediately file charges against Joseph Biden for inciting assassination. Another said Congressman Scalise, Justice Kavanaugh, and now President Trump, for years, Democrats and their allies have recklessly stoked fears, calling President Trump and others threats to democracies. Another said Democrats and liberals in the media have called Trump a fascist. They've compared him to Hitler. They've tried to lock him up. A radical shift in what has really happened in our country.
Every right-wing news channel has been busy spinning the story that Joe Biden and Democrats are to blame for creating an environment where some things like this could happen, all while overlooking the fact that it was Republicans that voted against every single piece of sensible gun legislation and mental health funding that would have addressed the very concerns that they bring up. It's outright hypocrisy, and these brain-dead jackaloons can't even see it and clear that simple hurdle. Swalwell argued that Republicans are attempting to rewrite the recent history of political events in the United States, specifically regarding the Capitol riot and other political tensions over the past 8 years to fit their narrative. And that's exactly what they are trying to do. They want to shift the focus away from Project 2025 and from the horrible job performance of the 118th Congress. Republicans want everyone to think that they are busy doing the work of the American people. They think that's going off in House proceedings about gas stoves and wanting to shoot immigrants on the border gives them credibility, but it only proves them to be absolute sellouts. Republicans like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Lauren Boebert, and others have done nothing but disrupt House proceedings with wild accusations and unhinged behavior. They've done no work for the American people and have stood in the way of meaningful legislation. It's like they don't want anyone to see behind the curtain to get a glimpse into their chaos and incompetence. Swalwell noted that Republicans have criticized Democrats for calling Donald Trump and others threats to democracy and for comparing Trump to Adolf Hitler. He highlighted that the Republican vice presidential candidate, Senator JD Vance, had himself previously made some strong negative comments about Donald Trump. Swalwell emphasized that the Republicans should not be allowed to rewrite or erase the events and significance of what happened, particularly referring to the Capitol riot. We pretty much know how Eric Swalwell and the rest of us critical thinkers feel about JD Vance, but how does MAGA feel about JD Vance calling Trump America's Hitler? And probably more important, but not addressed, is how they are going to reconcile that JD is married to a person of color. Michael Shore from TYT has interviewed some of the dumbest people that still walk upright. He asked several Trump supporters outside of a MAGA event, asking for their opinions on JD Vance's past comments comparing Trump to America's Hitler.
JD Vance pick means to you, what it means to you as someone who is pro-Israel as well as pro-Trump.
Okay, well, actually, I was very, very happy with the pick. I like the fact that he's a young man. I like the fact of how he grew up, his whole background, how he got to where he is. I think it's a good example for young people today, which is very hard these days to find good examples in America. You know, idols, people to look up to and say, you know, I can do that too, I can make it too.
He's also somebody who called Donald Trump an American Hitler.
I did not hear that, but that's what everyone keeps repeating. And okay, let's just say, okay, he might have. If he did, he did. But that was, you know, when you're going up for nominations and this, that, and the other, it gets contentious. People say really ugly things, and then they take it back, and then they get to know the person better, and they change their mind. He should have never said that, because that's too extreme.
Especially to someone who's here with the Republican Jewish Coalition, right?
Right. It's too extreme, but I understand that it's been so divisive and everyone is so concerned about being on the right and left. None of us are actually really focused on finding that middle ground where everyone should come a little bit, and, you know, and divisiveness, that's not okay.
He has said some unflattering things about the former president. He's called him America's Hitler. Yeah. He has only been in the Senate for, a minute. What about him versus some of the other selections is appealing to you?
Yeah, so as far as he said some really nasty things about Trump. He was clearly a never Trumper. But I think part of the problem is that Trump has been demonized so much, and people only take that demonization that they get from the media, and the Democrats. They don't really look into the background until they actually do their own investigation. And I think that's what's happened, is that more and more people have recognized this is a lot of fake news or bias. And then as they look into him, they realize that is not who Donald Trump is.
During a Fox News interview, Representative Eric Swalwell did not hold back his criticisms of Donald Trump.
So just look legislatively how consequential he has been. Our kids will drive on the roads that he built. They'll power their phones with chips that he
don't they deserve to hear from the president then?
And he's going to speak to the American people. But again, there have been, his cabinet will show up at Kamala Harris's acceptance of her nomination speech. Donald Trump wasn't able to say that.
Speaking with Martha McCullum, Swalwell praised Joe Biden for putting the country first, contrasting this with Trump's behavior. He highlighted the relative lack of controversies in Biden's administration and noted that Biden's cabinet would support Kamala Harris's nomination. Swalwell emphasized that the election represents a choice between Trump's divisive past and a unified future with Harris. He criticized Trump for his victim mentality, lack of integrity, and many people have pointed to the misuse of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to reward his loyalists rather than true American heroes. Consider this. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, established by President Kennedy in 1963, was intended to recognize individuals who have made an especially meritorious contribution to the security or national interests of the United States, world peace, or cultural or other significant public or private endeavors. Historically, recipients of this honor have been popes, astronauts, scientists, statesmen, military heroes, thinkers, and artists. However, under President Trump, the integrity of this prestigious award has been severely undermined. Over his tenure, Trump has awarded the medal to 24 civilians, 14 of whom are athletes. Trump has used the nation's highest civilian honor as a means to reward his most fervent supporters, including divisive figures like Rush Limbaugh, may he burn in hell, Representative Jim Jordan, and Representative Devin Nunes. Everything about Donald Trump screams narcissism, so it's hardly a surprise he turns the highest civilian award into a tool to reflect his own interests. He gave the Medal of Freedom to individuals for their service to him. President Trump's actions, including pardoning a rogue gallery of thieves and murderers and distributing the Medal of Freedom like trinkets have significantly cheapened the honor and tarnished its legacy. But that's what Donald Trump and the Republicans do. Trump and his enablers want to destroy this country, and Project 2025 lays it all out as their authoritarian manifesto. Kudos to Eric Swalwell for holding their feet to the fire. He's definitely one of the good guys, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.